Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilters Heaven in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. Today's episode, number 129, is Tiny Piecing Tips. But before we get to that, I just want to show you another one of the large ghosts that we made. I have the large one right here, and here is the original size. And you can see why, if I was making a single block door banner, that this would just be too small, hence the bigger one. So let's get to the episode. Tiny Piecing Tips. I'm still on the same Elizabeth Hartman pattern. Happy Halloween. And let me tell you, piecing these tiny little things, and this is the actual size of the block. I didn't change it larger or smaller. It was some of the hardest piecing that I have done. And then with the spider, I changed the size. It's an 8-inch block. I made a 4-inch block, and these little tiny eyes were so difficult to make, and I figured out a few things that helped me, so I want to share those with you. This actually is kind of my vision for the wall hanging that I'm making. I clearly didn't do all the blocks from the original pattern, but I wanted some candy in it, and then of course the bat, the ghost, the pumpkin, and then I'd like to do 3 spiders. And my goal is, with what I learned from how to improve my piecing, that my next 2 will look better than this one. Let's switch out the whiteboards and I will give you my tips, and then I will show you how I execute them. Here are my tips that I learned from making these tiny pieces. First, I found if I used my straight stitch machine from home, my feed dogs were closer together, and I had an easier time feeding the pieces evenly. But here at the store, my feed dogs are for 9mm stitch width, and that has your feed dogs much further apart than on the straight stitch machine. Now, assuming you're using something that's wider than you would like to, one thing you can do is cut your pieces a little bit wider than the pattern calls for. Do your stitching and then trim it down. I will show you that in a moment. And the other thing I found is I could put a pin in my pieces and use that to guide the fabric. I will show that to you too. The pin does hold the fabric together where you want it, but to me the primary purpose wasn't to hold the fabric together. It was so that I could use the pin to guide so that it wouldn't go off crooked on me. The one other thing I'm going to demonstrate is I recently made another Christmas stocking, and I do believe I've shown this before, but since we have so many new viewers, I'm going to show it again. Those little tiny loops on the Christmas stocking, it's also the same loop I use on the top of a bag to go around a button. They are so skinny that they go between my feed dogs, and I want to show you how you can get that to feed through when it's too skinny for your feed dogs. Let's go to the machine. I have 2 squares of fabric cut at 3/4 inch, and this is the smallest size that at least I know I can actually sew, because that's going to finish at 1/4 inch. I can't imagine that there's anything smaller that you would ever have a pattern to do. So I want to show you what happens when it just feeds through the machine in a normal fashion. Can you see it getting crooked? It's gone totally crooked. Let me take it out of the machine. I should have used darker thread, but this definitely goes crooked here. It's wider here and narrower here. So what I found is if I put a pin in, I'm going to use this pin with my right hand to keep this going straight. I kind of had to push the pin back and to the right, and that kept me much straighter than I was on the first one. And I can even see when I open it up that that looks like a very nice, straight, even line. So that's one thing that you can do to help you with little tiny pieces. The other thing that I mentioned before we came over here was cutting your pieces bigger. So these are 3/4 tall, but I made them wider so that as I fed them under the sewing machine, I could get both feed dogs feeding the fabric at the same time. And then once you got them pressed, this is supposed to be 3/4, each one 3/4. This then has to be a half here. So you would take your ruler, put it on the 1/2 inch mark, and you would use your rotary cutter to cut this. And then you would be the proper size. So that's something else you can do to help you get the pieces to the correct size. The last thing I wanted to show you was making of the loops, whether it's for a Christmas tree skirt or a purse or anything where you have to make these tiny little things. You know, this is one where you take the, boy, I'm in a little trouble here, aren't I? There it is. There it is. You take your piece of fabric, you fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. And here's your piece. And now you need to sew it. So you can see here, this little thing is dead center, does not touch the feed dogs at all. If I start to sew, there is going to be nothing that will advance this. So the way to get it to move is to use a little piece of fabric. A lot of people use these, leaders and enders. I don't use them much, but this is one place where I need something to drag this through. So I go ahead and I get it going, and then I'm going to put this in behind it here. Okay, I've got my little loop on top of my leader there. So don't forget, always make this piece larger than you're going to need it so you can cut off the unusable part. So now I'm just going to start feeding it through, and there it goes. It's moving. So now it'll keep going. So you can just go ahead and continue sewing on down. I like to sew both on this side and this side. I like to make 2 rows of stitches. However, you really only need the 1 row of stitches that's going to close that up. So whatever you want to do for your loops, do. This is just a way to get it to sew when you have something that's too small in between the feed dogs. So those are my tiny piecing tips. Let's get to the winner of the giveaway. The winner of the trio of table runners is Nancy Bettinger 1480. It's Nancy Boettiger. Please send me your information to my email address, quiltersheaveninc@gmail.com, and I'll get it out to you right away. Now, this week's giveaway, I think you're all going to like. It's batiks. Now, I'm not going to be able to fit all of this into the box, but it will be a stack of batiks. They're beautiful. There's nothing wrong with them. People just have given us so much that we can't possibly use it all. I will be using the medium flat rate box that I can send to anywhere in the US, and I will fill it just as full as I possibly can, and the winner will get the whole box. So, to enter, you want to like, comment, and subscribe, and in the comment, put bundle of batiks. And good luck to all of you, because I know this is an absolutely fantastic prize. So that's this week's episode. I want to thank all of you for watching, and please keep all the comments coming. While I read all of them, I don't get to respond to every single one, but I do like to hear what you have to say, so keep them coming. If that's it for now, until next time, happy sewing!